Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We are officially stepping out of the spa and straight into the laboratory. For decades, essential oils have been totally dismissed by a lot of people as just, well, a placebo, or maybe just simple relaxation tools. But today, we're going to completely decode the hard science behind essential oils and mental health. We're going to look exclusively at verified clinical data, peer-reviewed studies, and rigorous neuropharmacology to figure out exactly what these plant compounds are really doing to the human brain.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the mental health crisis, then break down the chemistry of oils. From there, we'll map out the stress axis, see how the brain reacts, dig into the evidence from clinical trials, and finally, we'll talk about the future of treatment.
Section 1. The mental health crisis. The global burden and traditional treatments.
322 million. That number is just absolutely staggering. According to the World Health Organization, an estimated 322 million people worldwide currently suffer from depression, and that's not even counting the 264 million dealing with anxiety disorders. To put that into perspective for you, depression is literally the single largest contributor to global disability right now. It is a massive, escalating crisis, and while we do have treatments, they often come with a pretty heavy cost.
Now, traditional psychotropic drugs, things like benzodiazepines and SSRIs, they are absolute lifesavers. They are absolutely vital first-line medications. But, and it's a big but, they frequently bring along some really harsh, life-altering side effects. We're talking chronic lethargy, dangerous tolerance building, weight gain, extreme fatigue, and sexual dysfunction. In older adults, certain anti-anxiety meds can actually exacerbate cognitive decline. This massive physical toll is exactly what's driving this huge, unprecedented demand for complementary and alternative medicines that can help ease symptoms but with way fewer adverse effects.
Section 2. The chemistry of oils. Visually grounding the pharmacological compounds.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how this grounds our whole understanding of medicine. When we talk about standard prescription drugs like diazepam or escitalopram, fundamentally, we're really just talking about specific chemical structures. Just very specific arrangements of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen that are designed to physically plug into and interact with the receptors in our bodies. Medicine, at its core, is just highly precise chemistry.
And when you contrast those synthetic drugs with the active compounds found in essential oils, the picture gets really clear. Essential oils are not magic potions. They are incredibly complex mixtures of volatile compounds. When you break down these structures, things like linalool, limonene, alpha-pinene, you realize these are highly active, deeply complex pharmacological structures. They belong to complex chemical classes like monoterpenoids and sesquiterpenoids, and they literally physically interact with our human biology.
So, we know they're complex chemicals. But that begs a pretty profound question, doesn't it? How exactly does inhaling a simple aroma or rubbing an oil onto your skin actually manage to reach and fundamentally alter the deep chemistry of the human brain?
Section 3. The stress axis. The brain's stress thermostat.
Let's map out how this actually builds in your body. When you encounter a stressor, your brain's hypothalamus immediately releases CRH. That's corticotropin-releasing hormone. This acts like a signal flare to the pituitary gland to release ACTH. That messenger travels all the way down to your adrenal glands, commanding them to pump out glucocorticoids. For us humans, that basically means cortisol. It's a rapid, cascading, physical domino effect from your brain all the way down to your kidneys.
Cortisol is our main stress hormone. And, in short bursts, it's actually super helpful. But under persistent chronic stress, that's where things go sideways. Constant cortisol actually increases the reuptake of serotonin in your brain. This creates a really nasty negative feedback loop, draining the available serotonin in your synaptic clefts, those active little spaces between your neurons. This chemical depletion is literally one of the foundational hallmarks of depression and anxiety. So chronic stress physically paves a chemical road straight to mental illness.
Section 4. How the brain reacts. Essential oils and neurological pathways.
Now, our brain relies on some vital chemical messengers. Serotonin regulates our mood, dopamine controls reward and alertness, and GABA is basically the brain's built-in calming agent. And here's the wild part. Clinical research shows that specific essential oils directly interact with these exact neurotransmitter systems. For instance, rosemary oil has been shown to stimulate the dopaminergic system, giving a genuine psychostimulant effect. On the flip side, oils like lavender, lemongrass, and bergamot physically activate that calming GABA system, operating through a mechanism that is very, very similar to traditional anti-anxiety medications.
But it's not just about neurotransmitters. We have to talk about inflammation. Stress triggers a pro-inflammatory response, releasing cytokines that literally alter our behavior and our mood. But essential oils step right in here too. Cinnamon oil, for example, has been proven to downregulate this pro-inflammatory response at a genetic level. Meanwhile, oils like frankincense and ylang-ylang kick off an anti-inflammatory response by physically dropping those glucocorticoid levels, that cortisol we just talked about. This creates a highly measurable physical calming effect on the body.
Section 5. Evidence in clinical trials. Real data on specific essential oils.
And this brilliantly illustrates the hard clinical data behind the pharmacology. When researchers applied diluted frankincense topically to sleep-deprived subjects, it physically decreased corticosterone markers and relieved their sleep debt. Inhalation of yang-yang, it led to measurable drops in blood pressure and a spike in calming alpha brainwaves. In animal models, injecting cinnamon essential oil directly into the abdomen significantly decreased immobility time in swim tests, which is actually a standard clinical marker for potent antidepressant-like effects. Different oils, different delivery methods, totally distinct measurable outcomes.
Now, human biology is a giant puzzle, which leads to some pretty intriguing paradoxes. Take ylang-ylang, for instance. In one major human trial, subjects reported feeling decreased alertness and way more calm. But in another trial, subjects reported increased subjective attentiveness, even though their physiological arousal actually dropped. Why? Well, it comes down to the anatomical variation of individual human olfactory systems. Basically, because our unique noses are wired to our unique brains differently, the psychological perception of an oil can vary wildly from person to person, even when the physiological calming effect inside the body is exactly the same.
So how fast does this actually happen? Let's look at a transdermal human study of ylang-ylang. The oil was applied to the abdomen at minute 0, massaged in for 5 minutes, and then covered up for a 20-minute absorption period. At exactly the 25-minute mark, researchers recorded a definitive physical drop in the subject's blood pressure and a rise in skin temperature, along with self-reported deep relaxation. Boom! Just 25 minutes is all it took for plant chemistry to fundamentally alter human physiology. To really drive home our Mythbuster narrative today, let's just lay out the irrefutable list of physiological metrics that clinical human trials have proven essential oils can alter. Ready? We're talking about reduced systolic and diastolic blood pressure, lowered heart rates and respiratory rates, EEGs actually showing an increase in deep relaxation alpha brainwaves. And this is my favorite, a remarkably decreased auditory P300 amplitude. Basically, that means the brain physically allocates fewer resources to outside noises, effectively helping you tune out distractions. This isn't guesswork. This is hard, measurable data.
Section 6. The future of treatment. Moving toward clinical validation.
Let's look ahead for a second. Beyond depression and anxiety, essential oils are opening up a really promising frontier for devastating neurocognitive diseases like Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is largely driven by the deterioration of cholinergic neurons in the brain, which causes those severe cognitive deficits. Well, remarkably, various essential oils have demonstrated potent anti-cholinesterase activity. In plain English, that means they physically protect those crucial neurons from breaking down. Because of this incredible neuroprotective property, researchers are heavily eyeing essential oils as a major target for future Alzheimer's drug development.
So, the absolutely crucial point we have to make here is this. While the science is overwhelmingly promising, we do have to maintain our clinical neutrality. As the researchers themselves point out, we have undeniable evidence of these measurable effects, especially in animal models and targeted human trials. But to take these complex, volatile botanical extracts and turn them into standardized, globally prescribed human drugs, we're going to need a lot more rigorous, large-scale clinical research.
Ultimately, the bridge between natural botanical chemistry and complex human neuropharmacology is definitely not a myth anymore. It is a scientifically proven reality. We are learning that the compounds inside a simple flower or a piece of bark can actually physically rewrite the stress pathways of the human brain. And that leaves us with a really profound thought. As clinical trials continue to validate all of these mechanisms, is it possible that your next prescription for anxiety, depression, or even cognitive decline might just include a carefully calibrated essential oil? It's a pretty fascinating prospect. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and hey, keep exploring the incredible science all around you.